here's the introduction from the book. It said, from a pretty early age, I started to get the feeling that my dad was a little different from the other dads. When I was 7 years old, he walked me down to the corner of Michigan and Trumbull to watch a ball game at the old Tiger Stadium. As I handed my ticket to the man at the gate, he told me, "Have fun at the game with Grandpa." With a glove on my left hand and a ball cap on, I looked up at him and said, "He's not Grandpa, he's my dad." At restaurants, movie theaters, and golf courses, for my entire childhood, the same thing kept happening. And I had to keep explaining to people that the man standing next to me was actually my dad. Why did everybody think he was my grandpa? Being a kid, I never really understood. Even though he began collecting Social Security when I was only 4 years old, he still managed to coach my Little League baseball team, walk miles without rest to watch me play golf in high school, and take me around the world with few boundaries or handicaps, aside from his chronic misplacement of his daytimer. Everything seemed normal to me. Everyone knew Dean Robb, and everyone always remarked in disbelief at his age. I became all too familiar with comments like, "There's no way you're 78. It wasn't until one morning in the summer of 2009 that I was struck with the inevitability of his growing old. My girlfriend Angie and I were visiting northern Michigan for a vacation to the Traverse City Film Festival. We had been up late watching a film, and we were enjoying a lazy, inhibition-free morning. I brushed my teeth and laid back down in bed. Rolling to my left, I reached over and pulled my phone free from its charger. 17 missed calls. Before I could even look through the stream of missed calls, the phone buzzed again. My mom was calling. "Hello, what's going on, Mom?" With an unusually calculated calmness, she replied, "Matt, your dad was taken to the hospital in an ambulance. His heart rate is down to 30 and he's in congestive heart failure. Get down here as soon as you can." We rushed out of bed. I don't even remember much at all with the flood of thoughts, fears, and insecurities running through my head. But it seemed like it didn't take more than 10 seconds to get dressed and out the door. On the 20-minute drive to the hospital, two thoughts perpetuated through my mind. The first was, "Please be okay. You can do it, Dad." I pleaded, I prayed, and hoped and denied, all of the tools that the human mind uses to cope with an uncertain fate. The second thought was infinitely more profound. Pondering over the last thing I had said to my dad, and wondering whether it was the last time I would see him alive, I thought, not now. There is so much more that I want to know. This book is the product of that thought. We were lucky that day. The doctors did some amazing things, and one pacemaker later, he came back to his energetic and exuberant self. In December, I graduated from Michigan State University in just a shade under 7 years. With about 6 months left before graduation and the start of my new job, I was blessed with just enough time to sit down with my dad and write his biography. Every morning, my dad and I would sit down at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, and if we were lucky, a fresh cooked breakfast, compliments of Mom. The picture here in the book that you guys can see in the introduction if you're reading along. Dad's talent has always been communicating and relating to people. He is always willing to embarrass himself to make others feel comfortable. And people are always drawn to his rich body language and eagerness to engage them personally. However, his skill has never been computers, so maybe there's an advantage to having a son nearly 3 generations behind. Over the course of about 4 months, we were able to finish our first draft of the early part of his life. Having the opportunity to spend this time with my dad was such a privilege. Regardless of anyone actually reads the book, I now have a much better understanding of my dad's career, and it gives me great comfort to know that I and my family will always be able to look back at this book and remember him. My hope is that the following book has told his story well. I hope that you'll learn about a generation that began on the farm and was beckoned onto the world stage by the call of history. I hope you learn about the challenges of starting a career and the triumphs and frustrations of trying to make an impact on the world. I hope you learn about the use of fear by government agents and politicians to rally people against one another. I hope you learn that oftentimes the most practical ideas can be the most radical. I hope you learn that by dedicating yourself not to your own personal well-being, but to the needs and demands of others, that can lead to greater happiness. I hope you learn that nobody's perfect, and that life can take you only as far as you're willing to go. Most of all, I hope you learn something meaningful about yourself. I know I did.